if I can find a new episode. Well, we're going to find a new episode, of course, but we can find the podcast, I mean. All right. See if I can open this up. Hi, guys. How's everyone doing?
You know that sound.
We're not doing that sound.
Hi, Derek and MAU fans. This is Diane from Eastvale here in the IE. And a couple years ago, this probably is 10 years ago now, for my daughter's birthday, our family went up to LA. We went to Westwood Memorial Cemetery to look at some of the stars' graves, like Marilyn Monroe was buried there. And then we went down to Hollywood Forever, down on Santa Monica.
The Westwood Memorial Cemetery. I don't know. I think I've been there. Yeah, Marilyn Monroe. Hi, Chris. I have visited the Marilyn Monroe burial site where she's buried at. So that is Memorial Cemetery. It's a smaller cemetery. I feel like my favorite cemetery so far is Hollywood Forever. I know, 6 days away. I'm so sad. I am so heartbroken. I feel like it just came by in a blink of an eye, and I still don't know what I'm gonna do, like dress up as. I know this weekend I'm dressing up. I think I'm gonna do like a zombie, like Snow White, maybe, or maybe I can do like a Snow White, or no, Tinkerbell. I feel like I have the Tinkerbell stuff. So I think I'm gonna do that this weekend because I'm going to like a kind of like a Halloween Disney party-esque thing, and I think I'm gonna dress up as either Tinkerbell or Snow White. I don't think I've done Tinkerbell since like before the pandemic. It's been a minute, so I don't know. Hi, Mr. Thumb. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, let's continue the story.
Boulevard. And I'm not one that gets creeped out by cemeteries. I like being really respectful, but they don't scare
As you
me.
should.
And when we were at Hollywood Forever, I swear multiple times when I was walking through graves, it felt like someone was walking right behind me. I could hear.
I've been to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery numerous times, and I'm very curious where she felt like she was being watched, but we gotta...
Pushing in the grass.
Hi!
And I turn around.
Hi, Ahmed. Hi, live. Sorry, I don't know how to say your
username. Looking at a different area. And
I know.
Couldn't shake the feeling.
Hello.
I tried putting my purse.
Oh, the froggy. I love your froggy icon.
Out, different things like that. And I just could not explain it. And none of the rest of my family had any issues. So fast forward a couple years, me and my sister and my mom and a friend went back to Hollywood Forever and walking around. And I don't know, the first time I was there, it was late afternoon. Second time I was there, it was in the morning. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but nothing. No sound.
Thank you.
Feeling like someone's walking right behind me.
I live in Los Angeles. And no, I'm Latina.
Like a crazy woo-woo story, but it was something that stuck in my head. It always just bothered me that I couldn't put my finger on what was going on in the first visit to that cemetery. So thank you for listening.
Okay, so if you guys are just entering the live, so by the way, I'm live on both YouTube. Thank you so much for the likes over here on YouTube. Oh my God, this is amazing. I don't get to go live as much on YouTube, but I'm live on both TikTok and I'm live on YouTube. I'm getting ready for the day. Okay, so I do know Monster High. Actually, I do have like a vampire monster. Here, give me 1 second. I'm gonna show you something. So I still have her in the box. So my friend gifted this to me, and I, haven't done much with it. I want to keep her in the box. And I feel like it's just such an amazing, the packaging and everything. I think I might have this. Yeah, so it's like in her little like set. She is definitely gorgeous. You're right. So this is her. So I need to get on it, but I I need to watch Monster High. I know my friend's like, I think you would just love the Monster High stuff. And I'm like, yeah. And I need to watch it. So this was like my sign to watch it. So she is beautiful. I love seeing the makeup that people do for her and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you guys over there. So nice. Yeah. So, okay, back to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery thing. So, I've been there numerous times, and actually this year, this time of year, they have a lot of screenings and stuff like that. And I love going to Hollywood Forever Cemetery. I went last year to watch Goosebumps when it came out. And do you know that like she is oh, sorry. What? What am I missing here? Yes, for president. Yes, Kamala Harris for president. um But back to what I was saying though, Hollywood Forever Cemetery has a lot of movie screenings, and I haven't done anything this year. I haven't gone to see any movies, sadly, but I was doing live streams there. Some of you guys might have joined me when I went to go see the oof. Yeah. Thank you so much for the likes, you guys. You guys are so nice. But I feel like as far as like the story with this woman and saying that she felt like something was watching her, it is interesting because as somebody that does paranormal topics on both YouTube and TikTok, because I'm on live on both. Thank you guys so much for the likes. I truly think that can you feel things in cemeteries? Absolutely. Is it common? I don't think it's as common. Um, but I do think you can sense things there. There's a lot of also customs that you do and like um ways to pay your respect when you enter a cemetery. People leave coins and all of that before entering cemetery. I remember when I went to Tombstone, Arizona, when I met up with these two Navajo people, they actually talked about like what their belief system with the cemeteries and after you leave a cemetery and you talk to the spirits there, you do leave an offering. I know and it's similar to what I've done. I remember when I went to do a paranormal investigation in Colorado, we went to see a fire department and do investigation there. That was one of the things that I also did. I left rum and I did coins and rum and to have protection and thank the spirits that I communicated with there. Oh, honey, love, that's amazing. Arizona has so many like spooky areas. I would love to go back. I haven't had a chance to go back this year, but I went last year and I had a blast. I got to visit a lot of different sites out there and I would love to go back. Hi, Maurice. So, yeah, Arizona just spooky for sure, though. I would love to go back. Tombstone is where I went. Now, Tombstone was a very interesting spot. My husband and I went for a paranormal convention that they host, I think, every year. I think it's brand new, so don't quote me on that, but they've been doing that every year, as far as I know, the last 2 years. And they've been having a paranormal convention, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And I'm glad that they invited Hero and Sean Clen. Again, they're Navajo. Really awesome. Okay, let's see what the host has to say about the cemetery because I'm curious what he has to say about Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Anyone who wants to go there, it's worth a drive to go walk around and be outside for a while. They have big peacocks at that cemetery.
A lot of cool stuff at that cemetery.
Thanks, Diane. Hollywood Forever. A cemetery I know quite well. I know it because certain times of the year you can actually catch a film there. Oftentimes they have casting
the
crew
movies.
for the movie that they're showing there to present it. So it's quite the experience.
Yep.
They project the film right there on the stark white mausoleum wall. It's pretty cool stuff, actually.
It is.
And one of the
Love that
biggest
cemetery.
things I miss about living in the center of Los Angeles. Now, Hollywood Forever is famous, if not infamous. A short list of interments read like a red carpet guest list. Cecil B. DeMille, Ed Wood, Judy Garland, Mila Nurmi, Vampira.
Oh, thank you, Sean.
Johnny Ramone, Mickey Rooney, Bugsy Siegel, Mel Blanc, Estelle Getty.
Oh my God, speaking, because he's naming a few different notable classic Hollywood actors and actresses, and also even current ones. Funny enough, The voice actor from Bugs Bunny is buried at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And I remember this one time when I went to meet my friend, because he does like reoccurring live streams at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And I don't have the Polter script with me right now. But he like the Polter script generated the words hippity hop, and I turned around and it was actually I was right behind where the voice actor of Bugs Bunny is buried at. And that was the most interesting thing ever, which is why I'm saying, like, I'm not, do I think like cemeteries are haunted? No. But do I think that they can be? Like, I feel like not haunted in a sense of like a house haunting, a hospital, but there is definitely apparitions that people have seen at cemeteries. I think there could be residual energy there. But it was very interesting that the hippity hop, like, like a bunny, uh, popped up on the Polter script. It generated the words, and I turn around and the voice actor Bugs Bunny was right there. I don't know. If you guys think of anything of that, let me know. I live in Los Angeles.
From the Golden Girls. And, most recently, Paul Rubens, or Pee Wee Herman, who was laid to rest there earlier this year. Now, I've linked to the full list, and it's quite extensive, though I will admit that many of the players that are buried there are from the earlier generations of the silver screen.
Yep, classic
Names
Hollywood.
I haven't heard since film school.
No, I don't know what that is.
Worth a look. But the cemetery has a darker side as well, a spookier side.
Sure
And
does.
the very mausoleum that the films are shown on is the center for the resting place's best-known ghost story. But first, we need a little context. Before Heath Ledger, before James Dean, there was another heartthrob that left millions of
Conjuring is a great
fans
movie.
after
Spooky
their
one for sure.
untimely, tragic death. 98 years ago, the death of actor Rudolph Valentino shocked the world.
Thousands of movie fans jammed the streets around Campbell's funeral parlor in New York as Rudolph Valentino lies in state. This is the way they remember their favorite, just after he made his greatest film, The Sheep. From 1919, when he started in pictures, up until his death in August 1926, Valentino captured the hearts of millions of moviegoers. His legions of followers wait.
Oh my God, the Rudolph Valentino area. So the screen, I don't think the screen is behind. I have to double check. I don't know about that. I don't know if he said that, but Rudolph Valentino. Okay, so I'm glad he's bringing this up. Holy memory unlock. So when I went to go do a live stream with my friend John Joseph, again, he's on TikTok and YouTube. If you might have seen his lives, I don't know, but he does classic Hollywood content, and I went with him, and he was telling me how he's always, every time he goes to the area where Rudolph Valentino is buried at, it's like this very eerie, heavy energy. And it's so interesting because I remember when I went with my sister, I have to double check with my sister, but I remember we both felt the same way. And he now on the podcast called Monsters Among Us, he's also bringing up like the stuff of Rudolph Valentino. So we'll see what he has to say about this, but just wanted to add in my 2 cents on that. I'll get to the lipstick here in a second.
A last look at the man they thrilled to on the screen. The Valentino funeral procession moves to St. Malachy's Church. Valentino starred in the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, the Sier-Bouquet, the Sheik, the Son of the Sheik, and Blood and Sand. The public, which took his life to their hearts, took his death with a desperate acceptance of the inevitable. Rudolph Valentino begins his last journey.
That was an actual newsreel covering his funeral.
That is
back
very
in
fascinating.
1926. Courtesy of Film Archives, NYC. So after his New York funeral, Valentino's body was sent back to Los Angeles on a train, where he was later laid to rest, you guessed it, in Hollywood Forever Cemetery, then just known as Hollywood Cemetery. And for the ghostly part of this tale, I pull a dusty tome from my bookshelf, Haunted Southern California by Brian Clune. and page
Brian Kluner has written so many paranormal books throughout Los Angeles. So if you ever see any books written about him, it's worth checking out. He's done a few of like the Queen Mary, Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Yeah, a lot of amazing books. Just wanted to give a shout out to that.
115 reads, perhaps the most famous spirit at Hollywood Forever may also be the most recent. The Cathedral Mausoleum in the southeast corner of the cemetery is where, in 1926, silent film heartthrob Rudolph Valentino was laid to rest. The year after his passing, and for the next 30 years, Deidre Flame came to his mausoleum to leave one red rose. According to Miss Flame, the reason for her devotion stemmed from the time when she was 14 years old and deathly ill. As a favor to her mother, Valentino would go to the hospital with a single red rose and place it in her hand.
Oh.
He would sit by her bed to comfort her and once told her, "You're not going to die at all. You're going to live for many more years. If I die before you do, please come and stay by me, because I don't want to
The
be alone."
story.
6 years later, Valentino passed away of complications from surgery to fix an ulcer and appendicitis. Miss Flame never forgot his kindness or her promise. Every year, Miss Flame, always dressed in a black morning dress, made the pilgrimage to place a rose on the kind man's grave. Deidre Flame passed away on February 23rd, 1984.
Now that is definitely like so heartwarming. Oh my gosh. And if you ever do visit like Rudolph Valentino at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, you'll find that there's people that leave so many roses, like every time I've been there, roses, so many roses throughout where he's buried at. There's even like people wear lipstick and they like leave kiss prints on like his plaque. Very interesting. Again, if you ever go to Hollywood Forever Cemetery or have the opportunity to go, you need to go. It is very interesting. They have so many good events. I think they're doing like Dia de los Muertos this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. They're going to be doing that. But I know that they've been doing movies all season for like Halloween season. I'm sure that they're probably going to be doing like Christmas movies and stuff too here. Oh, can't believe Christmas is coming up. I can't even. I am so sad Halloween has come and by. Shan, yes, I do have some scary dolls. Like not like scary, but like, you know, they're eerie looking. I mean, this one isn't. It's Alice in Wonderland. It's in a vintage doll. This one here, I did a video over on BuzzFeed for BuzzFeed Unsolved. Tucker Comedy and I did a video with this doll, a few other dolls, and we investigated into which one was haunted. So the people at BuzzFeed did not want to keep the doll in their inventory, so they asked if I wanted to take the doll, and I said absolutely. So he's been hanging out here, and I have a Raggedy Ann over here, but I don't know if no one can see it. It's not on camera. So yeah, I have some spooky stuff. So interesting stuff with the Rudolph Valentino stuff.
At the age of 78. Since that year, sightings of a spectral lady in black have been reported every year on the anniversary of Valentino's passing.
Oh my
The
gosh.
stories are always the same. A woman dressed in the same morning gown as the one Miss Flame wore will walk up to the crypt, place a single red rose in the vase, gaze kindly at the marker before may play some pretty good ones.
That is cool.
Thank you again.
Like not cool, but like interesting, like the ghost stories and stuff like that. All right, so let's get into another story.
Hi, Derek. This is Chris from Southwest Virginia. Longtime listener, first-time caller. So I'm sitting in my backyard. It is July 23rd, a little after 9 p.m., and I was just staring off into the sky, into the night sky, and I saw this orange ball of light moving kind of slowly, almost arcing down. And my partner, who was across from me in the hammock, didn't see it. I asked her, "Hey, do you see that?" And she was kind of struggling to get out, and she said, "No, I don't see anything." And it started getting smaller and smaller, and I got really insistent. like, do you see that? And she was still trying to get out of the hammock and turn around, but she was looking, she's like, I don't see anything. And it got so small that it just disappeared into the sky. And by the time she was out of the hammock, of course, and facing the right way, it was gone. Yeah, really weird. Just wanted to call it in. Love what you
Okay, I kind of missed it a little bit because it was such a short. Oops, where did? So I'm using like the transcribe feature over here, and it's just,
do. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Chris, for calling in. Now,
I
coincidentally,
think we missed it. I don't know. Oh, here we go. Okay, she said, I'm sitting in my backyard on the 23rd of July after 9 o'clock, and when she looked into the sky, she saw an orange ball of light moving kind of slowly, and my partner, who was across from me in the hammock, didn't see it. I asked her, do you see that? And she kind of struggling to get out. She said, no, I don't see anything. And it started getting smaller and smaller. And I got insistent, like, do you see that? Okay. I don't know. I mean, I think that's a tough one. I think it was so short. I think that, like, seeing an orange ball into the sky can mean so many things. It could be a comet, a comet. It could be a plane. Because if it gets smaller, that means that, like, it's flying further away from you. So naturally, it's going to become smaller. So I don't know. I think that's. I don't know. I mean, that's where my mind goes to, but I'm wondering if the host has anything else to say. So we'll see what the host has to say to that.
Another call from Virginia that might be reporting the exact same event.
Oh, interesting.
But from a much closer vantage point. Please welcome Clay, also from the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Virginia peeps.
Hey, Derek, this is Clay from Virginia. I'm a massive fan. I just wanted to call in to report a story that I had from back in 2007 or maybe 2008. This happened towards Laurel Fork, Virginia, a really, really small town, in southwest Virginia, in the middle of central Appalachia. But back in 2007, 2008, I was in high school, and my friend and I, we had decided to stay the night at his house over in Laurel Fork, and there was no drinking, no drugs, no anything. But both of us had worked that day, and we're just playing some pool and everything, and the night was about to end, and he had to call his girlfriend, and so I took the moment to, go around to the side of his house, to his backyard, and I was smoking a cigarette and looking up in the sky, and it was raining earlier, but the rain had subsided, and I was staring off into the sky, and at this area, there was just a major hill that was to the side of his house, and I was looking at the stars and everything, and I looked over into the distance. Coming up over that hill was a massive, massive dome, and it really shocked me. Really, it was kind of like 3 rows of lights. One row on the top was, white light. The one in the middle was red, and then the bottom was white. But it went kind of like a carousel. So from right to left, the lights would, go just like a carousel with illumination going from right to left. And really, I was so shocked that when I saw it, I just stood there in awe and tried to get my phone out to take a picture or video or something like that, but my phone wasn't working at that time. So put my phone up and just
Thank you so much for the likes over here on TikTok. Oh my God, we got 1,000 likes. That's so cool.
I need to have someone else look at this. So ran down to his basement where we were hanging out and playing pool and get inside, and he had flipped on his electricity on again, or the breaker to his house, so that he could make that phone call and everything like that from his landline from his house. So I guess whatever that was that I had been staring at had interrupted the electricity to his house. And I will say that Laurel Fork, Virginia is near Whitfield, which had somewhat of a flap, I think, in the late 80s.
Interesting.
The Whitfield UFO sightings, and also Laurel Fork, Virginia is near one of the biggest deposits of crystal that they've found within Virginia.
Hi, Katie.
With all the limestone and everything like that. So a big crystal deposit there as well, and I think over that hill, there was also a major power line. So when I saw that big UFO, I could hear buzzing, and I don't know if it was trying to get some type of charge from that power line or what its intention was, or if it was kind of keying in on me, which is kind of scary to think about. But to be in the middle of absolutely nowhere in Morrowport, Virginia, and to see that sighting really sticks to me to this day, and it's probably why I listen to your podcast. So, well, I appreciate it, and keep doing what you're doing. I really enjoy the podcast. It makes my day go by really quickly. So, thanks, and
Okay, that was interesting. I'm not much. Okay, so here's the thing. I feel like UFO phenomenon is very fascinating. It's very fascinating, especially with like what happened last year and the UFO hearing, and or well, UAP is what they call it now. I think it's hard to discern things now at this point in terms of like, okay, yes, there is very strange activity happening in the sky. Sometimes it could be just like unexplainable, like seeing a comet, right? Like it's crazy. Not everybody sees it every day. So it's really hard to discern that from like a craft to maybe something happening, like as far as like strange things happening in the sky where, we're seeing something fly by as a comet, right? The other thing too is consider is that with the whole hearing and all of these UFO phenomenons, like we know that there's people out there, different countries that are working on crafts, like unidentified crafts for different countries. And it's weird because it's like why are they making crafts and doing it like underground essentially? You know what I mean? So for me, I feel like UFO phenomenon is interesting, but I kind of err on the side of thinking more so of like, okay, is there a country or is there somebody or is there a branch of the military that are working on unidentified crafts and they're just not telling us? And why are they not telling us? It's really weird. Do I think that like UFO phenomenon could be little green men in the sky? I don't know. I mean, I've met people that claim it is. I've met people that claim that they've been abducted. So it's a very fascinating area. Like UFO phenomenon is very interesting. Um, a lot of the times when people call in strange things and they describe it, it's hard for me to like visualize it. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I feel like it's hard to visualize what they're explaining because in my mind I start to think of like, oh yeah, I've seen like like a shooting star. I've seen like little small ships and they look very different than your standard commercial flight. So I think of those things like my mind automatically goes towards that, but I feel like if people experience it, people talk about it all the time having like strange experiences with craft. So I'm not like super skeptical that it's like an unidentified thing, but I'm more skeptical of like, is it little green men in the sky type of thing? You know what I mean? But I could be very wrong. I could digress. I could probably have an experience and be like, oh my God, it's so different now. I don't know. You never know. Okay, so I'm going to go down to this one.
Hi, my name is Lindsay. I currently live in Spokane, Washington, but I grew up in Orange, California. And back in 1991, I was in junior high, and I had this friend named Heather who had a slumber party. At the slumber party, Heather was telling us about how her apartment was haunted by this old woman who really liked to watch TV. In specific, she liked to watch Mariah Carey. And Heather was
Mariah
really
Carey,
mad
Halloween, and
about
Christmas.
having this ghost. She was not scared of her at all. And so I asked her if the ghost would show herself to us. And Heather said, no way, not now anyway. And so a few days later, Heather and I are hanging out. We go to this candy store called the Pink Lady. And it's one of those old-fashioned candy stores where they just
Thank
sort
you,
of throw all of your
Michael.
candy in one bag. So we got Jawbreakers and those very sour gumballs. And we headed back to Heather's house. We were both latchkey kids. So we're just hanging out at her place in her bedroom, watching TV. I'm sitting with my back up against the wall, and Heather's at the foot of the bed, and she's kind of leaning on her side, and we just dumped all of our candy out on the bed, and we're eating it. Heather turns to me and she's like, hey, did you move my candy? And I said, no. And she goes, oh, okay, watch this. And so she leads me out of the room. We shut the door behind us. We go back in, and the candy is scattered across the bed, and there's a few pieces that are very wet. So we do this a few more times. We leave the room, shut the door, go back in. The candy's all lined up. Leave the room, come back in. It's stacked up in a little pyramid. I mean, this was just incredible. And so I'm thinking, no way. I'm looking around. I'm looking in the closet. I'm looking under the bed. I'm thinking that there's got to be someone else there, but there really wasn't. And so I figured since she's able to move candy like this, maybe she can write us a message. And so I take a piece of paper and a pencil and I wrote, "Show yourself to us." Again, made sure I was the last person out of the room, shut the door, gave her a minute. And then when we went back in, "No" was scribbled across the paper. So that is the most concrete thing I have ever seen with my own eyes. I've seen other things growing up that I kind of question now. I wonder if I really saw what I thought I did. Interestingly, some of the stories on your show remind me of the details. Like I saw shadow figures once where they looked very sort of jagged and they moved jerkily. And I remember seeing that, but I kind of forgot about it until I heard other people's stories and I was like, whoa. So anyway, that's my story. Thanks a bunch. Bye.
Okay, that is super cool and super interesting in terms of paranormal phenomenon and communicating with spirits in your home. I just like couldn't help but chuckle when she's like, she says, the spirit likes Mariah Carey. And I'm just laughing because I just did that video on like the Mariah Carey and Christmas seeping in. But I will say this, I just, I love the fact that they talk about the qualities of the spirit and what does the spirit like? What does this ghost in this apartment do? And, because most of the time when we hear traditional hauntings, or stories of hauntings, people like talk about like the ghost of the 1800s. And I really like that they're kind of like talking about like, well, here are the things that the ghost seems to like. One thing I will say to people, if you are experiencing hauntings, a lot of the times they always say that it does get amplified with music, or it's easier to communicate with spirits through music, and they tend to like that stuff. I've talked about like haunted theaters and stuff like that. Oh my God, you saw shadowy figures, David, at 4. Oh my gosh. Was it in your room or like throughout the house? Um, so, and then back to the story here on the podcast, they talked about how they left the apartment and they wrote these messages to the spirit. And then when they came back, no was scribbled on the piece of paper. So again, because I'm a huge paranormal person, I believe in the paranormal. I literally saw a white apparition in front of me when I went to the Queen Mary. My like skeptical side, because I like to talk about both the skeptical and the paranormal, my my mind is like, is that the Hello Luigi board? Wait, what do you mean? Um, so my mind goes to the idea of, and I've said this before, like we always want to be careful with like hauntings because there's like that documentary. I was like, I think on Netflix. I don't know if anyone, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe there's a documentary and I believe it was on Netflix and it was talking about like froggers. And that's like the name that's coined for people that like live in your home. Like everyone has seen, I'm sure you've seen this footage, but it was like this one guy, he was noticing his food disappearing in his apartment. He thought it was a haunting. Then he puts a camera inside his house, and then he sees that in the middle of the night a woman was living in his attic, and she came down and she would like grab the food and like take it back up there. And of course, upon like further investigation, they found that she had been living up in the attic for like a year or something like that, and like she had understood his like routine and his schedule, that he would come down, like she would come down whenever he was at work or he would leave the house. So that's the stuff that I think about. Like, how is like the layout of your apartment, your house, whatever? Could somebody be living in your crawl space? Could somebody be living in your attic? I don't know. So when she's talking about like how like the candies and here like seeing the word scribbled no, let me see what she said about the candy part, because she did say something about how like the candy alone, let me just see, like it almost felt like it like had some form of moisture. Let's see. Lindsay, I live in Spokane, grew up in California, or sorry, I live in Spokane, but I grew up in Orange, California. And back in 1991, I was in junior high. I had a friend named Heather. We had a slumber party, and Heather was telling us about how her apartment was haunted by an old woman who really liked to watch TV and liked to watch Mariah Carey. And Heather was a very matter of fact about having very matter of the fact about having this ghost. She was not scared of this ghost. And a few days later, Heather and I are hanging out. We got this candy store called Pink Lady, and it's one of those old-fashioned candy stores where they sort of throw all of your candy in one bag. So we got Jawbreakers, and those were the very sour gumballs, and we headed back to Heather's house. We were both latchy kids. So we're hanging out at her place in her bedroom watching TV, and I'm sitting back against the wall, and Heather's at the foot of the bed, and she kind of was leaning on her side, and we dumped all of our candy on the bed. So we're eating it. Heather turns to me and she's like, "Hey, did you move my candy?" And I said, "No." And so she leads me out to the room. We shut the door behind us and we go back in, and the candy scattered all across the bed. And there are a few pieces that are very wet. So we do this a few more times. We leave the room, shut the door, go back in. Okay, so again, it's interesting because it only happens where they would leave the room and all of a sudden they would get this paranormal experience, which is very, so it's a good coincidence, right? Like it's a little coincidence. So my mind goes into this whole like, was somebody living in your attic? Was somebody living underneath their bed? I don't know. Like that's pretty scary. Sorry, is that the Luigi board? I'm not sure if I know what you mean. Sorry. Are you talking about like the Ouija board? Yeah, this is the Ouija board. So I don't know. Like my mind is like, maybe she had a ghost. Maybe what if she had like a squatter living in her apartment? Like that's even scarier. Even scarier, but who knows? I don't know. You tell me what you think. I mean, those are the questions that my mind goes to whenever I hear people talk about that stories like that. I'm like, did you check everything? Did you check your house? Is there a possibility? And if all else you checked everything and it works out, cool. Then you can start kind of digging into the paranormal phenomenon aspect to it, I suppose. Okay. Let's see. So let's see what he says.
Thanks, Lindsay. A ghost that loves candy. And Mariah Carey. It's pretty amazing. And very apropos for this time of year. And the sassiness from this ghost. The scribbled note that said no when asked to present itself. I love the moxie.
What's going on?
And I love that you shared this story with us, Lindsay. So thank you again for calling in.
Thank you for the like over here on YouTube. Thank you.
Now I need to take a quick break, but when I come back, 2 more.
Okay.
Hello, Derek. This is Josh from Missouri. I'm a longtime listener, big fan. Watched you on Paranormal Caught on Camera, and really love the podcast. Been listening to you for a long time, and I finally had an experience the other night, just 2 nights ago.
I love that.
That I most definitely had to call and share with you. It happened in Oklahoma City. I'm working out of town, and we're staying in a hotel. It's fairly new. If you look at it on Google Maps, you'll see
really
that
arched.
the picture shows that it's still under construction, so it's fairly new. So the other night, the first night we were here, I was late.
Sorry? Oh, David, you're talking about the shadow people. Let's see. I remember seeing them at 4, you said. And then you said you looked up, saw it standing in broad daylight in someone's room doorway, and ran down the hallway to my mother. Ooh, that is spooky. Did you ever feel like anything, like the spirit was malicious or anything like that? Because I always tell people, I mean, and you know best, you lived it, you saw it. But I always tell people, like, at least in my perspective, shadows can be a couple different things. Sometimes they could be, sometimes shadow people can be apparitions that are not fully manifested. Sometimes it's us not fully being able to see it because maybe like our sensory or our like third eye is not fully developed to see it. Sometimes it's other things as well. It's residual energy. So it's not fully manifested. So there's a couple of different things with shadow figures. I know people talk about shadow figures being very scary and low energy, and maybe they're evil, but it's not necessarily always the case. But again, you lived it, you know, you probably have a hunch more so than I do on that experience.
On my left side of the bed, it was around 2:30 a.m. I was dead asleep. The room was completely dark. The blinds here are really good, and they just completely blacked out the room. Anyway, I'm laying on my left side, facing the window, and my left arm is like draped over the other side of the bed. And I remember just felt like I was getting pulled, like something was on the other side of the bed pulling me. And it woke me up and freaked me out. I woke up screaming at the top of my lungs. What the cursing I screamed so loud and I was
I love that. I'm gonna use that next time. What the cursing? So when if you don't know if you can curse, what the cursing? I love that. David says, the shadow figure chased me and I ran around my mother in circles and she was asking me who it was and asked someone for the Holy Bible and it left. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, then again, it might be something else. That's so interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm glad that you guys were able to like get rid of whatever is happening. And it's interesting because you were a kid, and they always say how kids they're more receptive and sensitive to these energies, and that's why they could see it. I'm a big firm believer of that. When I was in high school, I had a very unfortunate situation where I was living in Minnesota and my godmother, may she rest in peace, but she passed away. And so I flew back to LA and we were, so for Latinos, I'm Salvadorian, we do this thing when we pray for somebody after they pass, we pray for them. And then there's this thing where we pray basically for 10 years. It's this whole thing of like ensuring that the soul is, goes off into their destination. And so I remember when she passed, I flew back to LA. We went to the wake, but in the wake, they have this thing where we do a prayer and it starts there. So I remember that when it was my sisters, I have two sisters, and they both have a kid each. And one of my sisters, her son, he was around, I think he had been like 6 or 5. And I remember that he was a very sweet child and he's a sweet person now, but he was a very sweet child. He also has autism. He's high functioning autism, but back then he was just all over the place, and it was very uncommon for him to react scared or anything like that. Um, and we would watch scary movies, and I remember like if he walked into the room, like he did not react to the scary movie, whereas like if my niece did, because they were around the same age, she would react. That's kind of like the gist of what I'm trying to get at here. Well, I remember on this day we were praying and we were at this wake, and they had a open casket for this, and everyone was saying their respects, saying goodbye. We got into the prayer, and we're sitting down on these chairs. We're about like we're we're a couple feet away from her because again there was this area where you're not supposed to be. We're supposed to be seated and praying. No one was near her, by the way. No one was near my godmother. And I see my nephew and he's like hugging my sister, would not let her go. He was very like he looked like he was in shock. Like these are the moments where I would expect him to act like that when there were a scary movie was playing in the background or something like that. But in this time he was like just the first time I've ever seen my nephew react scared of anything. And he was around 5 or 6 years old and he's like holding on to her. He would not let her go. And it was very strange where my sister, she was like, okay, well, maybe he's like reacting because we have an open casket. He's never been to any type of funeral or a wake or anything like that. So maybe this is what it is. So then we get to like a Carl's Jr. We're eating food afterwards. And my sister asks him like, hey, why were you acting a certain way? Like, are you doing okay? Because we're at Carl's Jr. and he's acting perfectly fine. And then he looks at us and he's like, well, I saw God. And we're like, what do you mean you saw God? That's very interesting. What? And he's like, well, I saw this tall woman in white and she was glowing and she was looking down at the casket. Like that's what he was trying to say. And he called it the box, but it was the casket. And we're like, oh, that's very interesting, Jonathan. So do you think that was God? And he goes, I don't know. Yeah. And it was like the eeriest thing ever because there was no one up there. I remember sitting next to my sister and her like telling Jonathan to like simmer down, to calm down. She was trying to hold him and he would just not budge. So I remember that very vividly. So to your point, David, like I truly feel like children are very sensitive to energies and they can see things that maybe we can't see anything. So maybe that's probably why your mom couldn't see like the shadow figure. But either way, I'm glad that you guys were able to like get rid of it and it no longer like did any harm. But yeah, just wanted to share that. I know I'm on my tangent here, but just thought I figured I'd share that. Thank you so much, Anne.
terrified. It felt like something was trying to drag me off the bed. And then when I woke up screaming, it let go. And when it did, if it was even real, I pulled my arm back so fast, my pinky nail got caught on the not really caught, but as it was dragging across the sheets, as I was pulling my arm in, pulled my pinky nail out so far it was bleeding pretty bad. And I feel like there's no way I could do that without something holding my hand so I could pull it back and then it let go, and that much force would do it. It was terrifying. I was so scared. Nothing's ever happened to me like that before. I've never had a paranormal experience. However, I've been wanting one, I'm totally into this. But I asked the hotel staff if there was any deaths here, and they're not aware of anything. I did a Google search. I couldn't find anything. After it happened, I sat there for a minute, just in complete shock, and I tried to think, was I having a dream? Of course, I couldn't remember any dream at all. I don't know if there was something in here trying to pull me, if it was a dream. The next night, nothing happened. But that's my story. It was so scary.
That is interesting. I don't know. I feel like, so the guy that's talking about like having a dream of like something pulling him in his sleep and he woke up and it like hurt. He like hurt his finger. I don't know. I mean, I want to believe that he had a paranormal experience. Like I do and I don't. I do in a sense of like, yeah, I want that to be like your supernatural experience, something that makes you like dive into this. But on the other hand, it's like, well, man, that was scary. So I hope that was just a dream because that is very scary. On the other hand, though, if it's never happened before or even after, I'm really prone to think that it just might have been a nightmare. And maybe his like finger or hand got caught up in what he was saying in the blanket area. So I don't know. It's hard to discern that. I think a lot of these situations where you are sleeping and you wake up in the middle of the night and you feel like something's watching you or anything like that. Like I'm sure there are probably some where they feel paranormal and they probably are paranormal experiences. But on the other hand, I'm also prone to believe that it could just be you dreaming and you were having a nightmare and you woke up. I think that's a huge, if not a bigger possibility. But I don't know. If you guys think otherwise, let me know.
And I thank you for giving me a place to share this. Some people think I'm crazy. Some people believe me. We'll see what everybody thinks. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
So what do you think,
Tough to
dear
say.
listener? A wild
What I said. What I said. I feel like it could be a number of things. I don't know. It's tough to discern that. Like I said, I think it's when you're dreaming, it's tough because I feel like if it would have been something that's happens a lot, I think then I would like really be like, okay, that's something. There's something going on there. But as far as I can tell, doesn't seem as supernatural. It just might have been like a one-off, but who knows? I don't know. I mean, he had that experience. It's different. I always say, like, when it comes to paranormal phenomenon, it's perfectly okay to have healthy skepticism and want to believe at the same time. And I think for the most part, when we are experiencing paranormal phenomenon, we should look at it through some level of healthy skepticism, right? When I saw the apparition at the Queen Mary, that was where my mind went to. I was like, okay, what is happening here? Is this an eye booger? And then when the other girl saw the same thing, I was like, nope, this is not an eye booger. This is real. This is, we're seeing this white apparition trying to open the door right in front of us. And I'll never forget that experience. And I'm so glad I got to experience that. And paranormal phenomenon happens so fast. It happens literally in a blink of an eye. So I don't blame people for not always noticing paranormal phenomenon either. Okay, so let's see if there's another story. Okay.
What's going on, Derek? This is Hunter from Spartanburg, South Carolina. I've been listening to your podcast now for about 2.5, almost 3 weeks. Found you guys from Unexplained Encounters. Love the show. I just wanted to call in and give you an experience that I had. I have a long list of them, but this is the first experience, or the first one I can remember. I was about 7 or 8, and to give you some context, my dad is disabled. He's been disabled since I was about 3 years old, so we spent a lot of time together. We're really close. Well, we were at home, and It was probably about 12 o'clock p.m., middle of the day, pretty beautiful day outside. We got bored. So my dad was like, okay, I'm going to cook us some lunch. If you want to go find something that we can play, like a board game or play.
All right, I hate to cut it off here, but I have to go. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. I try to do these lives every so often. I try to do them at least once a week. So thank you over here on YouTube. What? Like there's 6 people? Like, I mean, to me, that means a lot, to me, honestly, because I never really get to do live streams on YouTube. I mean, I do, but I have been doing that as common as I have on TikTok. So there are definitely people I recognize over on TikTok. So you guys are great. Thank you so much for joining me also on TikTok. This is so much fun. I hope to do more. I'm going to try to do another one next week. And I actually, now that like listening to this episode made me want to look into maybe doing going to Hollywood Forever Cemetery and looking into the like the ghost stories, like going to all of the different spots throughout Hollywood Forever Cemetery and looking at the like ghost stories in each spot. If you're interested in that, let me know. And then I'm happy to do that for the last week of October. So crazy how quickly this month flew by. Makes me so sad, but obviously, you know, based on my background here and the content that I do, for me, I feel like Halloween is year round, but still so sad that Halloween went by in a blink of an eye. I know I'm looking forward to Christmas. I am. I really am. I'm looking forward to Christmas, but at the same time, my favorite holiday is Halloween. Halloween is hands down one of my favorite holidays. Christmas, it depends. Hit or miss. It's a lot moving parts with it. A lot of moving parts. I'm not really a big fan. Sorry if anyone else is, but I'm not really a big fan of Christmas music. Christmas music is it's not as good. Yeah, Halloween is next week. Exactly. So for me, it's year round on my channel. But no, for real though, speaking of that, I mean, I feel like there is spooky stuff. I'm noticing more and more there's like Creepmas is becoming a thing where it's like spooky Christmas themed. Last year I went to Heritage Square Museum and they were doing like Christmas ghost stories, and that was like the coolest experience I've ever had. It was also raining because we don't get snow here in LA. So it was like raining. I had my like umbrella with me. It was dark out. We had these little candles and we're listening to ghost stories. And it's true, like Christmas, yes, while it's, you know, family, holiday, loved ones, and all of that jazz, there's also like a lot of spooky stuff with Christmas too. That's when, you know, Christmas Carol, right? But there's way more like spooky stuff in Christmas. Anyway, so I rambled on. I know I said I was going to log off, so I'm going to log off. I'm going to log off over here on TikTok. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and thank you for the likes. We got like 1,000, a little over 1,000 likes. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to end it there, and then I'm going to end it over here on YouTube. So I will talk to you guys later. I'm going to ending the TikTok. And I always struggle with YouTube. I swear, it's so funny because I never do these lives on here as commonly. All right, thank you so much for joining me. I will talk to you guys later. Make sure to check out my new video. So I posted a video over here on YouTube. It's like 20-minute-ish, a little over 20 minutes. And I did a whole thing on Halloween Horror Nights. By the way, Halloween Horror Nights, they're doing 50% off a lot of items right now, which I need to run over to Horror Nights and get some Halloween stuff before. So I have stuff for next year. Anyway, I'm going to talk to you guys later. Check out that video. Bye.